I recommend getting on the internet, using Google and doing a search. You'd want to search for Jehovah's Witnesses or Watchtower, because as you know, the Watchtower is the name of their organization that prints this literature. In the front of the book, what does the Bible really teach? In the front here it says Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. So you can search on the word Watchtower. Now that will give you too many hits on Google, so you'd want to add some other words like news organizations that examine the Watchtower, such as Dateline. And you're not looking for just every Jehovah's Witness that may have made a mistake, because remember the paragraph said to look at their conduct and their beliefs, those two things. So we're not interested in the conduct of just the average Jehovah's Witness. You're interested in the conduct of those Jehovah's Witnesses that have thoroughly gotten involved in the religious teachings, such as those who are elders. Okay? So you might search for the word elder along with Jehovah's Witnesses, and such words as suicide or abuse. Or another one that you may have heard from the news, as you know that the Roman Catholic Church has had issues with pedophilia. Well, you can search for on Jehovah's Witnesses or Watchtower and pedophilia to see if that's an issue in their organization. Another one is having to do with not their conduct, but their teachings, because that was the two things, their beliefs and their conduct. For their beliefs, what about false prophecy or false prophecies? And as you search, and make sure you, in your search, you see my YouTube on our Jehovah's Witnesses false prophets. That's something that you can search in Google, and you'll see that video, which I'm providing that link associated with this YouTube, and go through that video on our Jehovah's Witnesses false prophets. Now make a list of everything that you find in your search and pick the top 10 that are most disturbing. Write it out on a good sized piece of paper, those 10 disturbing issues, the top 10, not more than 10. A witness will not, Jehovah's Witness will not listen or want to. It'll be just too upsetting. So you're going to make that list, and on that list make sure you do include, though, this video that I did on Jehovah's Witnesses and are they false prophets. Write it out and then make a copy of that paper, because you will need it later on to have a handwritten copy of it. Now remember why you are doing this. You are not doing this to upset the person, the Jehovah's Witness that you're talking to. You're not doing it to hurt their feelings. You just want to do for them what you would want someone to do for you, to help you examine, if you were a Jehovah's Witness, these religious beliefs so that you can make an informed decision, an informed choice. So when you meet with them again, you're going to have that list tucked away, but mention that you've made the list and say that you've been a fruit inspector and you went looking for fruit and you found some things. But you need to know in doing this research that Jehovah's Witnesses can become very upset. Now they've invited you to do this research, so they won't be upset that you did the research, but they will be upset with what you found. I personally know of a couple cases of Jehovah's Witnesses who heard this information, especially on the issue of false prophecies, and they had a nervous breakdown. They were quite ill for several days. Yes, they eventually left their organization and went on to the mainstream Christian community, but it was very painful and they became very ill. And that's not what we want to do. That's not, I would say that's not what you want to do. So the next time they meet with you, this is what you want to say. You say, I did become a fruit inspector this last week, because remember we saw in this last study in paragraph 5 that I should examine what Jesus said I should examine, the fruit of trees, of these religious teachings of any group. And I have searched on other groups, Roman Catholic, we've heard some things in the news, and I did do some searching on your group, and came across some things that were quite disturbing. Now I know that we can't believe everything we read, but some of these things were really disturbing. And I tried to put myself in your place and imagine what I might say if I were you, how to answer these questions. And I couldn't quite see how to do that. But these questions are so disturbing and emotionally affecting that I think I should keep these questions to myself for a while. Yeah, I think that's what I should do. And I'm figuring that if Jehovah God really wants me to get involved with your organization, somehow, some way, I'll get an answer. But I want to do it without upsetting anybody. So I haven't figured out how to do that. So I think, and I made a list, and I'm going to look at that list, and I'm going to try and research it on my own to see if I can come up with the answer. But I think I'm going to keep it to myself for a while, and we'll just see how that works out. And I figure, as I said, if Jehovah really wants me to be a part of your group, then somehow, some way, I'll get an answer. Okay, and then just leave it at that, because as I said, we don't want to upset the witnesses that are talking to you. But we want them to be mentally prepared and emotionally prepared that this is disturbing material and not to become emotionally destroyed when they hear it. So just be calm about this. Now, as time goes on, they may invite you to present one or two. Save the one on false prophets for last, because that is the most disturbing, and once you present that, it will probably be the last time they will meet with you. Unless they see the point and they are able to cope with it, and they make a choice to try the mainstream Christian community. But they may stop and terminate the study with you. So I recommend that you save that to last. And if they ask you to present one, hesitate, make sure that they are prepared emotionally for this, and present one. And explain that your purpose is that you've got a list of about 10, but you're not comfortable presenting one right after another because it's quite emotionally disturbing. In the meantime, every time they invite you to join some of their functions, go to one of their meetings, go to their long meetings, short meetings, or whatever, just say, well, I'm not sure I'm ready for that. I'm still processing issues. And remember, we talked about looking at fruit, good fruit, bad fruit, and I have that list. Well, I'm still processing that, and because of the things on that list were quite disturbing, I'm not ready to get involved just yet. And then they'll understand, and eventually, though, that they will ask you to present these issues. In presenting one of those issues, we'll talk about the Jehovah's Witnesses and whether they are false prophets or not. Make sure you've looked at that video and rehearsed what you need to say. And the principle, in brief, of what that video is about is that it's discussing one of their other publications, this book, The Nation Shall Know That I Am Jehovah. How? And this question of how is quite key. The answer to that question is that their organization is God's channel to the planet Earth. In fact, according to this book, chapter 4, they are more than just a good church. They are the prophet that God has chosen in modern times to communicate to earth and speak in Jehovah God's name, and to pronounce the punishment that's going to come upon earth, and to give prophecies about what Jehovah God is going to do to governments and religions on the planet. And in this book, in chapter 12, they make a prophecy that before the year 2000, religions and governments will collapse. Well, that didn't happen. And the issue is that the Bible specifically addresses such things. In Deuteronomy 18, verses 20 through 22, it says that if ever someone claims to speak in God's name and speaks a prophecy that doesn't come true, you're not to listen to that person anymore. In fact, according to the Old Testament, that person would be put to death. So your question to them will be this, is that if someone makes a prediction as a prophet speaking in God's name and that prediction fails, what should happen to them according to Deuteronomy 18? Should I listen to that person? Yes or no? That's going to be the question, and that will probably be the final thing you'll be able to say to that witness, because many of them are very loyal and don't want to pursue these questions, and they're just going to move on. But they might listen to you and examine these issues as facts. And they may say, oh, the things that you hear on the internet are lies. Well, then you invite the witness. Okay, I'm examining the fruit like Jesus said to, and I want you to help me to know whether I've got it wrong. I'm being lied to. I'm being deceived, because there are deceivers. Jesus said there would be deceivers. Who is deceiving me? I'm coming to you as a witness. Will you please inform me? Did what I hear about this book, is that true? Is that your publication? Did your group really say that? Do you today believe that the authors of this are God's prophet who have been commissioned to speak in God's name? I'm just looking for an answer. You tell me. And that's what you're going to do, but you need to be rehearsed and plan ahead and postpone this, hopefully, till the end of the book, when you finish this book. And then you'll present this, or they'll say, I'm not ready to go to any meetings, and they'll say, why not? Well, because I have a list of fruits that were quite disturbing, and I need an answer before I can go to your meetings and get more involved with your organization. And then go through that list, and especially the one on our Jehovah's Witnesses false prophets.